The Varick Dominion had always won. For hundreds of years, their fleets swept through the stars, taking planets one after another. They believed no one could stand in their way. On this day, they had surrounded a lone warship near the edge of an empty star system. It didn't belong to any empire they knew. Its design was strange, smooth black plating, no lights, no workings. It looked quiet. Too quiet. Admiral Corrick sat in the command chair of the lead cruiser, watching the strange ship through the viewscreen. "It's alone. It's small. And it's ours," he said with a confident grin. The other commanders laughed. But inside, that black ship, far from the laughing voices of the Varick, Captain Elias Holt sat in silence. He wasn't smiling. Elias had been in space for a long time, but this mission felt different. It was the first time he had taken the Resolute Earth's newest and most advanced battleship so far from home. He thought about Earth's blue, oceans, the bright cities, and the voices of people he hadn't seen in years. One voice in particular, Lena's. Lena had been his closest friend since childhood. They grew up together, dreamed about the stars together. But years ago she had moved to a colony on the far side of human space. The distance had turned their messages into short updates, then into silence. Elias never stopped caring, but he didn't know how to close the distance between them anymore. He wanted to reconnect, but every time he thought of reaching out, the words felt wrong. Now, here he was, staring down 60 alien warships. And for some reason, his thoughts still drifted to her. "Captain," his first officer, Commander Reeves, said quietly. "They're moving into attack formation." Elias took a deep breath. "Any chance they're just curious?" Reeves shook his head. "Sir, I think they're hunting." Elias tapped a control on the arm of his chair, opening a communication channel. The translator rendered his words into the Varick tongue. "Leave or else." The alien admiral's laughter echoed through the comm. "You are alone, human. We will take your ship apart." Elias shut the channel. Shields to maximum. Weapons ready. Outside, the alien fleet fired. Bright plasma bolts streaked toward the Resolute, but they fizzled and vanished against a shimmering blue field. The aliens fired again and again, but nothing broke through. Inside, the human crew moved with calm precision. They had trained for this. They knew what their ship could do. "Sir," Reeves said. "Orders?" Elias stared at the enemy ships. He didn't want this fight. But Earth's safety and the safety of everyone he cared about meant he couldn't afford to lose. "Target the lead cruiser," he said. The Resolute fired once. A thin beam of light cut through the darkness, striking the alien flagship. The ship split apart in a silent explosion, debris scattering like shards of glass. For a moment, the enemy fleet froze. They had never seen such a weapon. Then, panicked out, the human battleship unfolded its weapon arrays, sleek turrets and rail cannons moving with mechanical grace. One by one, they fired. Every shot found its target. Alien cruisers turned into drifting wrecks. Elias's mind was focused, but somewhere deep inside, he felt that same ache, the one that came from missing someone far away. He realized something. He had been telling himself he didn't know how to reach out to Lena, but maybe the truth was simpler. Maybe all it took was the same thing he was doing here, taking the first shot. Not to destroy, but to bridge the distance. In less than 2 minutes, the alien fleet was broken. The few survivors scattered into hyperspace. Reeves looked at him. "Sir, we just destroyed 60 warships in under 100 seconds. Elias didn't smile. "Let's send them a message." He opened the channel to all frequencies. "Human space is not open to conquest. This was your only warning." As the transmission ended, Elias leaned back in his chair. The fight was over, but something else wasn't. He pulled up the ship's communication log. His hands hovered over the controls, hesitating for just a moment. Then he began recording. "Hey, Lena," he said softly. "It's been a long time. I know I should have reached out sooner. I'm far from home right now, but I was thinking about you. I hope you're okay. Let's talk soon." Outside, the wreckage of the Varick fleet drifted silently in the Alulag. Darkness. The Resolute turned toward human space. Elias knew the galaxy would remember this day for the battle. But for him, it would also be the day he decided that distance, no matter how far, was never the end. The Resolute moved through deep space at cruising speed, the stars stretching into thin silver lines outside the viewports. The wreckage of the Varick fleet was far behind them now, but Captain Elias Holt's thoughts were not on victory. They were on Lena. The short message he sent after the battle still sat in the comm systems. Pending list. Because of the vast distance between them, it would take days to reach her colony. He found himself wondering if she'd even want to hear from him. Maybe too much time had passed. Elias stood alone in his quarters, looking at a small holophoto. On his desk, it showed him and Lena as teenagers, standing on a hill on Earth with the city lights behind them. She was smiling in that easy way she always had, the kind that made people feel safe. Now, he didn't know if she still smiled like that. Commander Reeves's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, we've picked up something unusual ahead. You might want to see this." Elias straightened his uniform and headed to the bridge. The Resolute's sensors were focused on a faint signal coming from the edge of an asteroid belt. It was a distress beacon, but the signature was old, almost primitive. Reeves pointed at the display. "This isn't any current Varick, coalition, or human frequency. Could be decades old. Or something else." Elias leaned forward. "Any signs of a ship?" "Barely. It's small, heavily damaged. Might be a derelict." Something about the signal tugged at him. "Bring us in slowly. Shields up." As they approached, the shape of a battered vessel emerged from behind a cluster of tumbling rocks. Its hull was covered in scorch marks, whole sections missing. But painted faintly on one side, under layers of damage, were 3 letters, HSCREEV. Blinked. "Sir, that's a human stellar cores registry. But the cores hasn't used this design in over 50 years. Elias felt a strange pull in his chest. That ship might have been lost before he was even born. And yet, here it was, carrying a human signal across all this empty space. "Let's get them aboard," he said. The rescue team returned with 3 survivors. They were thin, pale, their uniforms torn. Medical scans showed they had been in stasis for decades, their bodies only recently awakened by the ship's failing systems. The leader, a woman named Captain Aria Vance, saluted weakly when Elias met her in the medbay. "You're human," she said, as if confirming it for herself. "So are you." Elias replied with a faint smile. Her voice was rough. "We thought Earth had forgotten us." As Aria told her story, the bridge crew listened, in silence. Her ship had been part of an early exploration mission, venturing beyond known human space. They'd been ambushed by a hostile alien force, the same Varick Dominion that Elias had just fought. Outnumbered, they'd fled into deep space, but their ship was crippled. The crew had gone into stasis, hoping someone might find them. "No. One came," she said quietly. "We thought humanity would never reach this far again." Elias looked at her. "We came, and we're not leaving anyone behind." That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He stood at the viewport, watching distant starlight flicker across the darkness. Aria's words echoed in his mind. "We thought humanity had forgotten us. It wasn't just her." Lena might feel the same way, that too much distance meant she knew. Longer mattered to him. That he had moved on. but she hadn't stopped nattering. Not for a moment. The next day, the Resolute changed course to escort Arya's ship back toward human territory. As they traveled, Elias began spending time in the medbay, listening to the survivors' stories. They spoke of Earth like it was. Padrine green fields, warm sunlight, the sound of rain. Arya looked out the viewport one day and said, "You know what's funny? Out here, in the middle of nowhere, the smallest human things mean the most." Elias nodded. "Like what?" "Like a voice you haven't heard in years. And suddenly, you'd give anything to hear it again." Her words felt like they were meant. For him, that evening, Elias sat in his quarters and replayed Lena's old voice messages, short clips from years ago. Her laugh filled the small room, making him smile and ache at the same time. He realized something. Reconnecting wasn't about saying the perfect thing. It was about showing you still cared, no matter how much time had passed. The Resolute's comtech interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, we've got a long-range signal coming in for you." Elias froze. "From where?" "From the Far Reach colony." "Sir, it's from Lena." Her message was simple. "Hey, Elias, it's been a long time. I got your message. I'm glad you reached out. Maybe we can talk more soon. And be safe out there, okay? I heard there's trouble in the outer systems." Elias sat back, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in years. Outside, the stars kept passing. The galaxy was still dangerous. The Varric might return. But somewhere out there, a connection had been made again, and that, to him, was the real victory. The Resolute continued its journey, carrying not just survivors from a lost era, but a reminder. Humanity might drift, but it never truly forgets its own. Distance could test them, but it could never break them. For Elias, that truth was as powerful as any weapon his ship carried. And in the silence of space, he felt the hope that had been missing for far too long. The Resolute cruised through the black ocean of space, guiding Captain Arya Vance's battered ship toward safety. Inside the human battleship, life returned to normal routines, engine checks, navigation updates, and quiet meals in the mess hall. But for Captain Elias Holt, things were not normal. Lena had replied. He'd listened to her short message at least 20 times. Each time, it made him feel warm and strange at the same time. It wasn't much, just a greeting, a little concern, and a promise to talk more. But after years of silence, it felt like a star flickering back to life in the dark. Still, he didn't know what to say next. That night, he sat in his quarters with the lights dimmed. He tried recording a reply, but kept deleting it. Every version sounded too formal, too clumsy, or too personal in the wrong way. It frustrated him. He'd faced alien warships without flinching, but a simple message to an old friend had him second-guessing. Every word. Reeves stopped by to give a status report, but noticed the look on Elias's face. "You're thinking about her, aren't you?" Elias sighed. "Is it that obvious? Captain, I've served with you for years. I've never seen you hesitate in battle. But you're sitting here staring at a blank screen like it's the scariest thing in the galaxy." Elias gave a short laugh. "Maybe it is." The next morning, the Resolute's sensors picked up a faint signal ahead. Another human distress call, too, in such a short time, was almost unheard of. The source was a mining station on a small moon, abandoned by most maps. Arya, now strong enough to walk, joined Elias on the bridge. "This wasn't here when we passed. This way decades ago," she said. The mining station was in bad shape. Power levels were critical, and the docking bay doors hung half open. But the signal was clear. Help needed. Hostiles approaching. Hostiles? Reeves repeated, scanning the area. No Varric ships on sensors, but there are something else. Fast, small, not friendly. Elias set his jaw. "Bring us in." Shields up. As they approached, Small alien raiders darted in and out of the mining station's shadow fin, insect-like, craft with glowing wings. They fired at the station, trying to breach its hull. Target them, Elias ordered. The Resolute's cannons lit up the darkness, destroying the raiders with precise, silent bursts. Within minutes, the survivors fled. Station's docking bay welcomed them with dim emergency lights and the faint smell of burning metal. The few remaining workers looked relieved, but wary. One of them, a young engineer named Cora, stepped forward. "You're human?" she asked, almost in disbelief. "Yes," Elias said. "And so are you." Her voice trembled. "We thought we were too far out for help. Nobody ever comes this far." Later, as they shared food in the mess hall, Cora told her story. The station had been set up to mine rare minerals, but supply runs from human space had stopped years ago. They were too far, too small, and too unimportant for the big trade routes. We've been forgotten, Cora said. Those words hit Elias harder than he expected. Forgotten. That was the fear he'd felt about Lena. That distance had made him fade from her thoughts, just as she had from his. But seeing these miners reminded him. Sometimes people didn't reach out because they thought no one cared. And all it took to prove them wrong was to show up. When they left the station, Cora stayed on the Resolute, deciding to return to human space. The crew welcomed her like family. Elias watched the way she smiled when she spoke to people, and it made him think of Lena again. That night, in his quarters, he recorded another message. This time, he didn't overthink it. "Hey, Lena, I heard your voice today, and it reminded me of when we used to stay up all night talking about exploring the stars. I want to hear more from you. Tell me about your life on Far Reach. What's changed? What hasn't? I'll be listening." He sent it before he could talk himself out of it. 3 days later, her reply came. "Elias, you still sound the same. The colony's busy, but it's not like Earth. The sky here has 2 suns. So nights are short. Sometimes I miss the dark. Sometimes I miss people. I miss you. Let's keep talking, okay?" He read the message twice, then saved it. Out here, surrounded by emptiness, those words felt like a promise. The galaxy was dangerous. The Varric were still out there, regrouping after their loss. But Elias felt a little lighter. Humanity's strength wasn't just in ships or weapons. It was in this. In staying connected, in refusing to let distance or silence break the bonds between them. The Resolute's next mission was already on the horizon. But this time, Elias knew that when he returned to his quarters after battle, he wouldn't just be thinking about the next war. He'd be waiting for the next message. The Resolute was not heading home. Captain Elias Holt had hoped for a short break in human space, time to breathe, and maybe even a live conversation with Lena. But the galaxy rarely gave breaks. A coded transmission from human command reached them urgent orders. Varric scouts had been spotted near a quiet human colony on the edge of known space. The colony's name made Elias's stomach tighten. Far Reach. Reeves studied the report at his console. "Sir, they're sending us to defend Far Reach. Population, just under 20,000. Agricultural world, minimal defenses." Elias stared at the star map. Far Reach, Lena's home. His voice was steady, but inside he felt a storm. Plot a direct course. Maximum speed. The crew didn't ask questions. They had seen their captains. Face enough to know this was personal. During the journey, Elias kept replaying Lena's last message. "I miss you. Let's keep talking." It had been only a few days, but he wanted to send another reply, something to let her know he was coming. He started recording. "Lena, I'm on my way to Far Reach. We picked up a possible threat." And he stopped, deleted it. The Last thing she needed was to feel fear before he even arrived. 4 days later, the Resolute dropped out of hyperspace on the edge of the far-reach system. The planet looked peaceful from orbit 2 suns, casting golden light over green fields and wide lakes. But the sensors told another story. "Sir," Reeves said, "Varick ships, 10 of them, in high orbit over the colony. They haven't fired yet, but they're in attack positions." Elias felt a tightness in his chest. "Open a channel to the lead ship." The Varick commander appeared on screen, a tall, scaled figure with cold eyes. "Unidentified vessel, you are trespassing in Varick space. Leave now, and we will allow the humans below to surrender peacefully." Elias leaned forward. "This is human space, and you will leave or else." The alien hissed, a mocking sound. "You think one ship can stop us?" Elias's voice was quiet, but his crew could feel the steel in it. "Yes." The Varick fired first. Plasma bolts streaked toward the Resolute, but the blue shields flared to life. "Absorbing the energy. Target their lead cruiser," Elias ordered. One shot. A beam of light cut through the darkness, slicing the Varick flagship in two. The pieces drifted apart, glowing with fire. The rest of the fleet hesitated, then charged. The Resolute moved like a predator. Turrets swiveled, cannons roared, and in under 3 minutes, 5 more Varick ships were reduced to wreckage. The survivors turned to flee, but Elias gave the final command. "Disable their engines. Let them limp home. Make sure they tell the story." The last shots were precise, crippling the enemy ships without destroying them. The Varick retreated into hyperspace. When the battle was over, the colony's governor contacted the Resolute. "Captain Holt, you've saved us. We didn't think anyone would come this far for us." Elias smiled faintly. Humans don't leave their own behind. But there was only one voice he wanted to hear. That night, docked in Far Reach's orbit, Elias sent a direct message to Lena. "Hey, I don't know if you saw it, but we had a little trouble in your neighborhood today. Everything's fine now. I'm in orbit, and I'd like to see you if you have time." He hesitated before sending it, wondering if it was too much, too soon. But he sent it anyway, hours later. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, her reply came. "Elias, I saw the flashes in the sky this morning. People here are talking about a black ship that scared the Varick away. I didn't realize it was you. If you're really here, yes, I'd like to see you. I'll come to the landing pad tomorrow morning." For the first time in years, Elias felt something that had nothing to do with battles or orders. He felt anticipation. The next morning, as the shuttle descended toward the colony, he saw Far Reach up close, rolling farmland, clusters of houses, and the glow of the 2 suns rising together. And there, waiting on the pad, was Lena. They didn't speak. At first, they just looked at each other, smiling in that quiet, slightly awkward way people do when time has passed, but the bond is still there. Finally, she said, "You didn't have to come all this way." Elias shook his head. "Yes, I did." They walked together through the colony. She showed him the fields, the market, the quiet lake where she liked to sit at sunset. He told her about his missions, some stories light, some heavy, but all ending with the same truth. Humans never stopped looking out for each other. When the sun dipped low, they sat on a hill, just like in the old photo he kept in his quarters. "Elias," Lena said softly, "I didn't realize how much I missed having you around." He smiled. "Then let's not let this much time pass again." When the Resolute left Far Reach 2 days later, Lena's voice was in his com log again, this time not as a short reply, but as a longer message telling him about her life, her hopes, her fears. And he knew he'd send one back, no matter where the next mission took him, because battles ended, but connections didn't have. He and Lena had talked more in those 2 days than in the last 10 years. They'd walked old paths, shared new stories, and even laughed like they used to. But as soon as the mission orders came in, duty had pulled him away again. Now, in the quiet of his quarters, her last words echoed in his mind. "Don't disappear for another decade, okay?" Their new orders were risky. A small human research outpost in the Mela Rift had gone silent. The Rift was a dangerous place on stable space currents, strange gravitational fields, and rumors of alien ships that never appeared on scanners until it was too late. Some captains would have refused the mission. Elias didn't, not because he wasn't afraid, but because of what the last few weeks had taught him. Distance could break more than just communications. It could make people lose hope. And he wasn't going to let that happen to the scientists out there. The journey through the rift was rough. The stars twisted strangely outside the windows, and the crew felt the ship shudder now and then as it passed through invisible waves. "Sir?" Reeves reported. "No response from the outpost yet. But I'm picking up faint energy spikes." "Not natural." Elias nodded. "Stay sharp." "Someone's out here with them?" They found the outpost on a barren, icy moon. Its dome-shaped habitat was damaged, lights flickering weakly. Around it drifted 4 alien vessels, sleek, silver, and silent. "They're not Varric," Reeves said, scanning them. "Unknown configuration." Elias frowned. "Unknown doesn't mean friendly. Ready shields. Let's try talking first." He opened a wide-band channel. "This is Captain Elias Holt of the human ship Resolute. The people in that outpost are under human protection. State your intentions." There was no reply, just a sudden spike in the alien ship's power readings. "Here it comes." Reeves muttered. The aliens struck fast, their weapons sending bright, needle-thin beams at the Resolute. The shields flared, holding steady. Elias gave a single order: return fire. Disable, don't destroy. The human cannons fired in short bursts, knocking out one ship's engines and forcing another to retreat. The other 2 moved to flank them, but the Resolute's maneuvering was precise, like a dancer stepping through a fight. Within minutes, the aliens were gone. When the docking team entered the outpost, they found the scientists alive but shaken. Dr. Piran, the lead researcher, grabbed Elias's hand the moment they met. "We thought no one was coming. We sent distress calls for weeks." Elias smiled faintly. "You're human." "Of course we came." Later, as the rescued scientists rested, aboard the Resolute, Elias stood alone at the viewport. He thought of Lena again, how she'd looked at him on that hill in Far Reach, how her voice had sounded when she said she missed him. He wanted to send her a message now, but again, he hesitated. What could he say that didn't sound like he was making promises he might not keep? He finally recorded, "Hey, Lena, we just pulled a group out of a bad situation." They thought they'd been forgotten. But they weren't. You weren't either. "I'm going to keep showing up, even if it takes time." He sent it before doubt could stop him. The next day, her reply came through. "Elias, I don't care. If it's time or distance, just don't stop. I'm glad you're still you." Those words stayed with him. And he realized something. Humans weren't special because they had the strongest ships or the best weapons. They were special because, no matter the danger, they went the distance for each other. Elias Holt felt the blood drain from his face as he read the message. Multiple Varric warships in system. Colony under threat. Immediate assistance requested. He read the message again, just to be sure. It didn't change. "Reeves," he said, voice tight. "How far?" 3 days at maximum burn." Elias clenched his jaw. "Push the engines. Make it 2. In his quarters, he stared at the last message from Lena on his comlog. "I don't care if it's time or distance. Just don't stop." He wasn't going to stop. Not now. Not ever. The journey was a blur. The ship's engines roared at full capacity, every system running hot. Crew members skipped sleep to keep the Resolute in top shape. They knew something personal was on the line for their captain. Even if he didn't say her name. By the time they entered the far-reach system, the battle had already begun. On the view screen, the colony's defense grid flickered weakly against a storm of enemy fire. Varric ships, 15 of them, moved in tight formation, their weapons lighting the sky above the planet. Shields on full, Elias ordered. Target their command ship. The Resolute surged forward, shields flaring as enemy fire struck. The human battleship's weapons came to life, rail cannons and beam arrays firing in precise bursts. The first Varric ship exploded, then another. The Varric fleet reacted quickly, trying to surround them. But Elias was already moving, his mind sharp, his commands fast. One by one, the Varric ships fell. The Resolute cut through their formation, like a blade through cloth, firing with calm precision. In just 8 minutes, 10 enemy ships were gone. The survivors broke formation, retreating toward deep space. Let them go, Elias said. We're here for the colony. The moment they docked, Elias left the bridge. Reeves called after him, but he was already moving down the gangway, across the landing pad, through the crowd of relieved colonists. And then he saw her. Lena. She was standing near the edge of the pad, her hair a little windblown, eyes bright despite the fear in them. When she saw him, she smiled in that same way she used to years ago. You made it, she said. Elias tried to smile back. I said I wouldn't stop. They walked together through the colony, the damage from the attack still visible, scorched. Walls, shattered windows, frightened faces. But people were alive, and that was what mattered. You really came all this way just for us? She asked quietly. For you, he admitted. She looked down for a moment, then back at him. I was starting to think we'd never really see each other again. That maybe we'd only talk in short messages forever. He shook his head. Not if I can help it. That night, they sat by the lake she had shown him before, the twin moons reflected in the still water. Around them, the colony began to settle after the long day. You're different, she said after a while. Not just because of the uniform. You carry things now. Elias nodded. You learn things out here. You learn that no matter how far you travel, the people who matter are the ones worth going back for, even if it's hard, even if it takes years. Lena was quiet for a long time. Then she said, So, you'll come back again? Elias smiled. Count on it. When the Resolute departed 2 days later, the colony was safe again. The Varric fleet that had attacked was already gone, vanished into deep space, their story of defeat sure to spread. But for Elias, the real victory wasn't in the enemy's retreat. It was in knowing that the distance between him and Lena wasn't as wide as it used to be, because humanity's greatest strength wasn't just in their ships or weapons. It was in their will to close the distance, no matter how far.